I got another one of those emails from some woman asking sort of like to get to know us for the purpose of joining the family.
I don't see my future anymore. And the hopes and dreams that I had are just disappearing before my eyes.
Get to know Robyn Brown, the woman who invested over a decade creating her reputation as the perfect wife in a polygamous marriage, the woman who said she openly embraced having her husband share time with other women. But now, she's facing the real possibility that her position as Cody's number one might be in jeopardy. What's truly fascinating about this story is the way that the major news isn't being revealed in a serene, one-on-one conversation. No, it's landing squarely right beneath a large, 6-foot-wide, bespoke painting of Robyn and Kody's engagement kiss, a painting which allegedly cost more than many people make in an entire year. Friends of the situation say that this ode to their love costs more than $25,000. Take a moment to consider that. As Cody was fighting with the rest of his wives over splitting up properties and fighting over every penny from Coyote Pass, he was simultaneously commissioning what the artist described as a permanent piece full of strong emotion. The man who claimed to be low on money was investing more in one painting than a lot of people have in a car. Robyn is in this strange place today, learning her husband is searching for new wives while she stands under the expensive display of their alleged one-of-a-kind connection. The premise borders on movie-like in its brutality. All of the discussion regarding introducing another woman occurs beneath this gold-framed emblem of Robyn's special status dangling above, as some kind of strange love marker. People in the shared marriage culture have been discussing this for weeks, and those who are familiar with a great deal about how these families function are watching closely. There's an obvious pattern here that's easy to notice for anyone who's followed the Brown family's saga. Each wife has enjoyed her turn as the central focus of Cody's attention, that special time when she received the majority of his attention, warmth, and chief resources, such as finances. What makes this of particular interest is the complete role reversal that we're witnessing. Robyn had been the one to support Cody on the dates with other women for a long time, freely discussing the benefits of plural marriages, even getting anxious when Cody was reluctant to expand their large family. She had been acting like the true expert at being a wife in this arrangement, the one who had the ideology correct, the one who could handle splitting up time better than everyone else. But accounts reveal Robyn's enthusiasm for additional wives dissolved fast when she was confronted with the possibility of losing her place. The woman who once instructed the other wives about the better aspects of sharing now purportedly is getting a quite different lecture because she's the one who could have to share, and the timing couldn't be more blunt. That's not in the middle of some casual discussion of their faith. That is happening right now with real people, as Cody sits beneath a very real and very expensive sign of the vows he made to Robyn regarding being his forever partner, the same vows, incidentally, that he is now preparing to make to someone else. Let's examine this instance of marriage irony, because the details about this custom artwork all feel like a lesson in how money can be used to manipulate things under the guise of all being about love. The woman who created this dedication to Cody and Robyn's relationship posted some eye-opening information about its creation on her website. Reading what she wrote with the entire context in mind feels both sad and infuriating. She explains that Cody purchased this 36 by 72-inch canvas as a present for Robyn from a photograph on the day she committed to marrying him. The artist describes feeling the sacredness of the work, that they were assisting her, that family from the past was guiding her, their emotions surrounding her throughout the process. She even wrote songs about the time they dated while she was working, creating what she describes as a lasting portrait that captures their romance in gold leaf strokes on the frame. But what is so out of touch is obvious. The artist has nothing to say about creating a romance memorial to a man who already had 3 other wives. There's no mention of, as she was painting the bliss of Cody, proposing to Robyn, another wife was waiting for his baby. The entire narrative provided to this painter was that she was portraying a typical romance between a devoted husband and his sole wife. Only the financial aspect should infuriate any woman who's ever dealt with family checks. Depending on the way the artist marks things up, good estimates place this one piece of art at anywhere from $21,000 to $30,000. That's what goes toward house payments. That's what goes toward school tuition. That's the kind of money most couples spend on something practical, such as a nice car or renovating their house or saving for their children. But Cody chose to invest that money in what's essentially the most expensive form of enhancing his own ego. A photo that asserts his connection with Robyn was superior to that he had with the other wives, and the time at which this was done speaks volumes. Accounts have it that the painting was created after the other wives had retired, making it less a celebration of love and more a tacky comfort object for Robyn, an expensive means of reminding her that she's still his number one. Life has a cruel sense of humor, though, right? Now, this same painting provides the backdrop for discussions of bringing new women into their union. Every time Cody mentions potential shared wives, he's standing under a $25,000 sign of promises he made to just Robyn alone. The twist is so potent you could cut it thin. More compelling is the way that this piece of art depicts all that went wrong in the Brown family arrangement. Other wives put up with hand-me-down furniture and divided provisions, but Robyn received exceptional art valued higher than some vehicles. While other wives overheard Cody complain about finances, Robyn received big art surprises. The differences weren't just in emotions, they were exhibited in gold leaf and paint. And now, as Cody considers adding another wife, that expensive tribute to Robyn's so-called one and only position has become an everyday reminder of how quickly things change in a shared marriage. The woman who used to love to be the cause of such a large gift is now struggling with the possibility of watching her husband make similar vows to someone else. The artist's webpage still has nice things to say about the enduring love that this painting represents, but the actual enduring aspect could be different. It may be the most expensive demonstration of how control is disguised as care, and how even the largest romance-ish gestures get manipulated into weapons in the complicated games of communal marriage. Let's take a trip down memory lane and examine the cyclical pattern that has been occurring at the Brown household for years, because what is happening with Robyn isn't new. It's actually the fourth installment of a popular tale, and anyone who's seen shared marriage practices could have seen this coming ages ago. Begin with Meri, Cody's first wife, who spent years as his sole partner before the family expanded. During her time as the sole Mrs. Brown, she received all of Cody's attention, made the major decisions, and felt secure as his sole one. But then Janelle arrived, and suddenly Meri had to share not only her husband, but her place at center of his life. The adjustment was not an easy one, and viewers of the family are well aware that Meri struggled with feelings of being replaced that nagged at her for years. And then Christine came in as wife number 3, with new energy, excitement, and a history of having come from a large family that seemed to reignite Cody's passion for the communal marriage life. For a time, Christine was clearly his first choice, the wife who received most of his romantic attention and emotional nurturing. She was the one he turned to for advice, the one whose opinion counted most in family decisions, the one who could best see his ideas for their expanding household. But trends return, don't they? Just as Meri got overshadowed by Janelle and Janelle got eclipsed by Christine. Christine's time as the premier wife came to an end when Robyn arrived, and this transition was perhaps the largest one because Robyn didn't become simply another wife. She became the wife who married Cody legally, the wife who received the most goods, the wife who was presented publicly as his truest love. What is so insidious about this trend is how all of the wives essentially learned to accept being replaced down the line. They were taught that jealousy was a personal flaw, that good shared wives needed to be glad for their husband's happiness with other women, that their role was to support the family even when the family didn't prioritize their needs. Every woman learned to believe her short time as the number one was her permanent place, and that any concerns about new wives were personal flaws to correct. Now, here's what every woman who's navigated tricky relationship arrangements needs to understand about this cycle. The top wife phase is not so much about care and deep connection or higher purpose. It's about novelty and winning people over, and the lift to self that comes with bringing a new partner on board. Every wife was a new challenge for Cody, a new individual to court and charm and afterwards command through the multifaceted emotional maneuvers that shared marriage arrangements are built upon. The courtship phase is exciting for men like Cody because it allows them to feel potent and desired and successful in love. But as soon as that wife is in the box, as soon as she's all in and dependent on him and a member of the family, the thrill is gone, the challenge is over. The self-lift plummets, and with certainty, these men begin to look for the next victory, the next opportunity to experience that romance high. Robyn, with her intelligence and forethought, fell into the same arrangement that led to her shared wives. She believed her connection to Cody was unique, more real, more true than his connection to the others. She convinced herself she was his actual forever partner, his current number one, but not his number one simply for now. The expensive artwork, the legal bond, the open declarations of affection all appeared to support her singular place. But Robyn is discovering what Meri, Janelle, and Christine learned earlier. In Cody's arrangement, there is always room for another wife, always room for the new romance test, always a way to start again with someone new. And the lady who once encouraged this trend is now facing the scary chance of being its next one hurt. Now we are forced to discuss the elephant in the room because the mixed messages in Cody's behavior are so blatant that even someone who just happens to be looking can recognize them with ease. This is a man who has publicly stated he doesn't adhere to the hardline Mormon doctrine that originally supported his plural marriage practice, but he's out there searching for more wives like he's selecting new couches. Let's cut to the chase of what Cody has spoken on television. In a number of full-story episodes in later seasons, he's made unequivocal statements regarding leaving the beliefs that began his family. He stated that he does not believe in the ideas which indicated shared marriage was the path to the best heaven destination. He's dismissed the guidelines which informed him that a lot of wives were not only acceptable, but required for his everlasting safety. These were not meek words or fleeting doubts. These were blunt, uncompromising declarations that the deep foundation of his entire adult life was essentially worthless. But then comes the intelligent manipulation of men like Cody. By releasing the set religious habits, he's not really releasing the life that sustains him. He's just removing the regulations that would have caused him to report to religious leaders or group expectations. Without the church structure to answer to, without the older folks who might ask him how he treats his wives, without the people who could point out what he does, Cody has essentially allowed himself to craft his own polygamous marriage with his own rules. That is the most convenient way for a man who wants to enjoy the advantages of multiple strands without the heavy obligation that originally made them acceptable. Consider it from a real perspective. If shared marriage wasn't necessary for beliefs anymore, if Cody really believed rules were unjust, why not simply remain with one wife in Robyn? Why continue striving after a method that has brought years of pain and conflict to his family? The motive becomes obvious when you remove all of the belief rhetoric and look at the primary motivations. Cody doesn't want more wives out of higher orders or profound faith. He's doing it because he enjoys the control, the blend, the ego boost, from having multiple women competing for his care and provisions. The reason of faith was always simply a convenient explanation for what was actually a selfish desire to have his romance and physical needs fulfilled by many without necessarily fully giving to one bond. Now Robyn is stuck in this difficult place of trying to debate additional wives on the basis of the same belief framework that Cody has stated he doesn't adhere to. How do you get a man to adhere to rules of a belief that he says he departed from? How do you employ deep reasons with someone who decried the same teachings as false? How do you discuss belief duties when your husband told you belief duties don't matter to him? The intelligent aspect of Cody's strategy, from a strict control perspective, is that he has removed every means Robyn could use to battle his concepts. She cannot approach their church leaders because they are not in an established church at the moment. She can't appeal to belief laws since Cody claimed belief laws do not govern him. She can't even refer to the vows he took regarding their forever family because he essentially told her that forever is not a part of his beliefs anymore. What remains is the stark reality that Cody desires many wives because he desires many wives, and all the deeper reasons that cloaked this desire are no longer there. Robyn is finally seeing her husband's actual motivations without the convenient veil of rules of belief, and it's not a pleasant view. This is not about safety, or large families, or higher orders. This is about a man who constructed a means that works for his desires and asks many women to sacrifice their own needs for his benefit. What's most compelling about this emerging narrative is the way that the broader community of shared wives has been connecting dots and seeing patterns that may not immediately leap out to fly-by observers. Women who've been down this path, who've managed the mixed emotional aspect of common marriages, are examining Robyn's place with a combination of evidence and comprehension that speaks volumes about the shared sense of being manipulated in these family arrangements. The conversations in private online forums, in sewing groups, in subdued store conversations, all revolve around the same concept. These ladies are speaking what many have believed for years, that Robyn is about to experience just what Meri, Janelle, and Christine experienced in their relationships with Cody. The only difference is that Robyn gets to witness firsthand how this cycle ends, having witnessed 3 other women be left by the same man who once vowed them forever devotion. Previous and present shared wives are actually examining the money control aspect of Robyn's story. They see the pattern of expensive gifts and grand gestures as means of manipulating rather than genuine displays of affection. The $25,000 painting is not considered sweet by women who understand how these arrangements are done. They recognize it as an elite trap, a good prison that binds Robyn's identity so tightly to being Cody's primary one that she can't envision life without it. What these wise women know that Robyn is beginning to realize is that big presents always come attached. That large painting is not just a work of art. It's a daily reminder of how much effort Cody invested in their binding, and therefore how grateful Robyn ought to be. It's a snapshot of what she owes him, a consistent thing that states, "View how much I care about you. View how much you matter to me. View how you'd never receive this level of care anywhere else." The shared wife clan also catches the isolating practices that Cody employed during his marriage to Robyn, by making her the deep wife, the one who actually got shared marriage rules, the one who was able to handle splitting up better than others. He pretty much kept her separated from potential friends in his own family. Robyn couldn't bond with the other wives through shared grievances because she was supposed to be beyond those concerns. She was unable to speak on being excluded because she was reported to receive more attention than anyone. Ever since the other wives have stepped out and created their own lives, the group of shared wives is observing to determine whether Robyn will be able to break the thought patterns that kept her as the chief wife. They're observing her reactions to Cody's advances with the keen eye of women who've been exactly where she is. They see the fear, the desperation attempts to remain relevant, the negotiations and talking that occur when a woman realizes her special place is on the verge of disappearing. These women are also observing something fundamental to achieving Robyn's present difficult position. They're claiming that in contrast to Meri, Janelle, and Christine, Robyn lacks the excuse of belief novelty or group training to rely on. She witnessed 3 other wives being emotionally discarded by Cody. She witnessed the pain and betrayal that accompanied being replaced with a newer, more exciting romance. She observed how Cody's promises of forever tenderness and warmth disintegrated when those bonds no longer served him. The shared wife group isn't showing schadenfreude about Robyn's spot, but they are showing a kind of serious gladness that the trends they have long spotted are now clear to all. They're saying Robyn's current trouble backs up their view about how these ties really run, under all the deep talk and romance promises. Most importantly, these women are opening up space for honest conversations regarding the emotional and financial damage that appears as belief care within relationship groups. They're labeling the control mechanisms, relaying their own stories of expensive presents turned into guilt trips, and offering assistance to any woman willing to recognize that being the best wife is only a new means of being led. Now, let's pause for a minute and talk directly to all women watching this occur. Because Robyn's seat teaches us a top lesson in identifying control strategies that go far beyond mutual marriages. Whether you're working with a husband, a workplace boss, a family member, or someone who uses money control and emotional manipulations to maintain power, these patterns are worth understanding. Time for a warning sign list, and see if any resonate in your life or relationships you've witnessed. Number 1 is the grand gift that creates emotional O. This is when someone gives you an upscale present, makes a grand romance gesture, or blows money on something purportedly just for you, when the real motive is to get you to feel you owe them. That $25,000 painting is not art, it's power. Every time Robyn considers standing up against Cody's suggestions, she's confronting a portrait symbol of the amount of effort he's invested in their bond, and how ungrateful she'd be not to appreciate his concern. The second warning is heavy care followed by pulling back. This is the cycle where someone lavishes you with attention, kindness, and provisions while dating, or when they desire you to consent, then gradually withdraws that when you are committed. All of Cody's wives experience this trend: the intense romance pursuit, the eternal nurture vows, the special treatment that let them feel chosen and special, followed by the gradual decline in attention as newer interests captivated his gaze. third indication is profound or right superiority as an immediate instrument. Search for partners who position themselves as more conscious, more bound by shared values, or more uptake of large rules than you. Cody consistently employed belief rules and deep superiority to guilt his wives into taking handling they would not endure in an ordinary tie. He made them believe their discomfort in sharing him was a personal flaw. Feeling jealous was a wrong they needed to correct. Real care equated to sacrificing their own desires for his perception of their family. Here's a major one that every woman who's run family money needs to spot. Money choices that put looks over safety. When someone spends on pricey show items, big moves, or fancy things while at the same time saying they're short on cash or arguing over real costs, that's a control way. It's about showing power and hold, not true warmth or money duty. Another major trend is alone-making in the guise of special treatment. This is where an individual makes you think you're the chosen one, the individual who understands them, the one who's different from others within their world, but the actual motive is to prevent you from potential saviors who could help you observe bad behavior. Robyn was appointed as the deep wife, the one who had better grasp of shared marriage than the others, which essentially made her unable to bond with the other wives through mutual feels of being controlled and ignored. Find partners who continually alter past events and changing rules to accommodate their now wants. Cody's journey from strict believer to one who claims not to trust the rules that supported his back is a perfect example. When an individual can shed major rules that allegedly govern their conduct without hesitation, they are demonstrating such rules were never actual rules, but convenient excuses for attaining what they wanted. The final warning that all women must recognize is the one only promise that's perpetually under threat. This is when someone keeps you comfortable in your special place without making you feel absolutely safe there. The painting is significant for Robyn and Kody's special relationship as he is searching for other women. The term is simple. You're special, but not special enough that you cannot be traded if you do not continue to earn that specialness through compliance and gratitude. These trends are not in only common marriages or faith communities. They are found in work environments, in large family settings, among friends, and in all kinds of romance relationships. The key is becoming aware of trusting your instincts when it feels like control, even when it's nicely packaged and presented as care. What is happening in the larger community surrounding this news is just incredible, and it's causing ripples that go far beyond the Brown family's own tale. Women who've been following the story for years are having their own wake-up moments, connecting things they've observed in their own lives and to the control methods surfacing on their screens. The shared wife community particularly is experiencing what feels like an eye-opener in common. Women who have been in shared marriage, who have negotiated the complicated emotional landscape of sharing husbands and resources, are speaking with a clearness and strength that has built over years. They're naming behaviors they previously accepted as norm, challenging arrangements they were socialized to take, and supporting one another through the difficult steps of recognizing control that had been disguised as better order. But the scope is extending beyond merely mutual marriage circles. Women in ordinary one-partner relationships are finding their own lives mirrored in Robyn's story. They're seeing the expensive presents that had strings, the isolate-making practices that isolated them from supportive friends and family, the profound or right superiority their partners employed to support selfish behavior. The discussion has expanded from conversation about a television family to a broader discussion about money damage and emotional control in all types of relationships. Spots on the internet have become meeting grounds for these conversations, with women posting their own stories of spotting danger, escaping control relationships, and supporting each other through the difficult steps of rebuilding their lives and their self-esteem. The comments and tags are no longer just for fun. They've transformed into loose help groups where women support each other's feels and actually share good advice about everything from financial planning to legal assistance. The thing that is particularly strong about this period is that it is bridging generations. Aged women who spent decades doing things they realize now were wrong are reaching out to younger women, learning how to recognize these patterns in their fledgling years. Mothers are having conversations with their daughters about recognizing control methods, about listening to their intuition when something smells fishy, about realizing that expensive presents and grand gestures can at times be blunt instruments instead of genuine caring displays. The waves are even striking belief sets where communal marriage isn't practiced, but where similar power games are present. Women in austere churches are wondering why they were instructed that conceding means accepting handling, that diminishes their worth and selection. They're regarding their own connections and group arrangements with new perspectives, inquiring whether profound words are employed to support actions that's actually harmful and self-serving. Mind health professionals are pointing to this culture moment as well. They're observing individuals who reference Robyn's place as a means of expressing their own feels with money power and emotional hurt. The plain sight of these trends, pointing on a large stage, is providing people words to express their own feels and permission to seek help for places they may have previously viewed as normal or required by beliefs. Perhaps most centrally, this wake-up is creating space for actual conversations about the difference between actual care and owning hold. Women are becoming aware of how to discern between partners who invest in their happiness and flourishing, and those who make investment that are intended to make owe and depend. They're discovering that actual care does not require expensive demonstration, does not demand thanks for simple respect, and doesn't employ depth or right superiority as justification for selfish behavior. The shared wives who've already escaped bad shared unions are serving as powerful examples of what can happen when women listen to their intuition and prioritize their own good. Their stories of rebuilding their own lives, experiencing genuine delight, and creating backing groups are inspiring other women to look at their own spots in a different light. This is no longer the story of one family. It has become a catalyst for broader conversations about spotting control, the construction of backing groups, and empowering women to trust their own call on what constitutes healthy, caring relationships. Let's see some numbers for a minute because the money perspective on this family has a story that's both disturbing and enlightening to anyone who's ever had to stretch a buck or choose hard on where to place scarce provisions. The $25,000 painting is more than an expensive art piece. It's a glimpse at money control in relationships where someone maintains the cash and has spending decisions as methods of power and direct. Consider what $25,000 translates into in real life for most families. That's a good used car that can last for years. That's a down payment on a simple house. That's a year of school tuition at many public institutions. That's emergency savings that might see a family through missed work or health issues. That's saving for later life or investing in children's futures, or paying off debt that might make a family's financial security. Rather, that money went to what is essentially the most expensive tool of control. A daily reminder to Robyn of how much effort Cody invested in their connection and how grateful she should be that he is taking such good care of her. But here's the thing that makes this spending so conspicuous. This purchase occurred while Cody simultaneously fought his other wives over every last piece of their shared stuff, complaining he was broke and disputing property trades, which would have provided some security for women who'd spent years constructing his arrangement. The timing reveals everything about Cody's actual top priorities. While Meri, Janelle, and Christine were working for their share of Coyote Pass money while attempting to gain some money independence after years of contributing to the family's success, Cody was spending money for fancy artwork to commemorate his marriage to his previous wife. The statement couldn't be clearer. Resources that might have provided protection for a number of women were sent to ego-gratifying art for the single woman who consented. But let's get into the mind aspect of this money control, because it's a pattern that goes far beyond shared marriage groups. This is about how large gifts are utilized to create emotional owe and maintain grip in relationships. Each time Robyn considers standing up to Cody's schemes, each time she feels out of sorts with his behavior, each time she thinks about prioritizing her own desires, she's confronted with a $25,000 reminder of how much he's sacrificed for their welfare. The painting is a constant guilt tool. It tells her to be grateful that she's received more than the other wives, that to question his spending would be selfish and ungrateful. It transforms ordinary Thai conversations into battles against observed not thanks. How can you argue with someone who can refer to such a large move and demand to know how you could question his consideration? This is money mind tricking at its most clever. By spending massive on move presents instead of actual puts in the family's future, Cody creates a narrative where he's the generous romance husband who's worthy of worth and consent. At the same time, the actual needs of the family, the later years planning, the school funds, the backup savings, all take a backseat to paying for his self and maintaining his grip over family ways. The artist's words regarding this order bear another layer of control. She says about sensing the holiness of the work, about previous family assisting her in the work, about creating an enduring piece of work that chronicles their romance. But what she was actually laying down was a control method, an old, pricey device intended to pin down one woman's consenting in a destructive family arrangement. Now, as Cody sits beneath this expensive monument to his devotion while discussing the addition of more wives to their union, the control becomes extremely transparent. The painting that was to signify their one-only connection has become the backdrop for conversations regarding sharing him with other females. The artwork that was supposed to represent their forever connection is now witnessing conversations about short arrangements with new romance individuals. The control of money extends beyond the simple painting. It's about the cash hold trend, spending money on display items and self-indulgence while claiming poverty when wives request fundamental security and autonomy. It's about rendering money dependent through grand presents that connect women's sense of identity to their attachments instead of investing in their freedom and agency. Now we arrive at the point of greatest importance, the crossroads where Robyn must confront the tough decision that every woman in her position ultimately has. She can either accept the addition of new wives to their household and watch as her top position slips, or she can battle Cody's suggestions and demonstrate that her decade-long performance as the perfect common wife was just that, an act to ensure she remains his primary one. The twist of fun here is that either pick reveals the underlying two-face that has been the focal point of Robyn's public persona for years. If she graciously takes new shared wives with the same ambition she used to push on others, she'll have to experience firsthand the emotional devastation that Meri, Janelle, and Christine experienced. She'll learn what it's like to watch your husband's focus, warmth, and supplies go to someone fresher and more thrilling. She'll finally get the hurt of being told feeling jealous is a personal fault while seeing your marriage fall apart right then. But if Robyn resists the ad of new wives, if she resists Cody's dating, if she requests to remain his sole wife, then she's declaring that everything she said about merging families being a good deep calling was all garbage. She'll be demonstrating that her back for the way only extended to what aided her, that her acquisition of sharing was merely ideas, and that her profound superiority was merely another control way to maintain her top position. Folks close to her report that Robyn's already demonstrating stress and fear that a company watching your safe haven is under threat. The woman who used to advise other wives regarding taking God's plan for their family is reported to be struggling to do what she preached when confronted with her husband searching for other women. The nice taking she wished from others is proving to be much more difficult to do when she is the one being told to move over and give way. What makes this place even tougher for Robyn is that she has the most optimal position to witness how this story ends. She saw Meri become increasingly isolated and desperate, clinging to whatever remains of her marriage while Cody's attention went in other directions. She witnessed Janelle's gradual emotional retreat as she obtained that valuable team wasn't sufficient to suffice Cody's romance gaze. She observed Christine's building upset and last decision to leave instead of continuing to take pieces of attention and affection. Now Robyn is confronted with the terrifying possibility that she's next for the same treatment. And unlike the other wives, she can't deny that she didn't know how Cody operates. She's witnessed his pattern repeat many times. She's seen him vow forever care to women he eventually left. She's witnessed his talent to switch out old and logic for discarded wives who did not assist him anymore. The $25,000 piece of art that previously represented her protection is now a daily reminder of the swiftness with which top picks can evolve in Cody's life. The grand relocation that was intended to establish her special place is now the backdrop to discussions regarding trading her in for someone newer and more exciting. The artwork that testified to their one-only relationship is viewing discussions of sharing that relationship with other women. Perhaps hardest for Robyn is realizing that all her clever maneuvering, all her careful positioning as the deep wife who actually got shared marriage, all her years supporting Cody's management of the other wives was ultimately worthless. She played the game right, said the right words, kept the best picture of the team behind the shared wife, and it still wasn't even enough to cement her forever place in his warmth. The group that once saw Robyn as the bad one in the Brown family tale now watches her face the same hard picks that ended the ties of 3 other women. There's some sort of justice in watching her experience the anxiety and unsafe she used to dismiss in others. And there's gaining what she's now another casualty of the same control system that devastated the lives of her shared wives. So here we are at this turning point, viewing the final act of a story that's been years in the making. And the impact extends far beyond one family's tough edge. What's emerging from the ashes of the Brown family universe is something much more powerful and dynamic than anyone could have speculated when this story first began. The legal angles in themselves are fascinating to see unfold. While Robyn navigates her tough pick, the other wives have been discreetly creating free lives that are great examples of what can be achieved when women prioritize their own well-being at the expense of maintaining relationships that bring them down. Meri, Janelle, and Christine have all taken the difficult steps of extricating themselves from shared money responsibilities, battles over property, and the emotional connections that held them hostage for decades. Their wins in making free lives have made a guide for other women in like spots. The legal ways they've used, the money planning they've done, the help nets they've built, all act as real patterns for anyone trying to leave a control tie. Even more significant, their evident delight and victories for defying the narrative that women can't thrive without the protection of common marriage or traditional male-headed family structures. What's so powerful about this era is how it's creating real sister bonds between women, once established as competitors for the same man's attention and resources. The win and split tactics that isolated the wives for years are fading, as these women recognize their shared fields of control and direct. Rather than competing for pieces of warmth from a man who never was able to care deeply for any of them, they're forming backing bonds with each other and with the larger band of women who endured similar tests. The financial damage that appeared in the guise of romance care is being highlighted and documented in a way that may have juridical impacts for future actions. The pattern of large gifts followed by money hold, of gigantic gestures intended to create emotional awe, of employing elaborate spending to justify limiting women's get-to-actual supplies. All this is being viewed as a form of cash damage that is increasingly being taken seriously by courts and legal people. Mind health experts are also watching this culture time, spotting how the Brown family's public end is making chances for big chats about spotting control in ties, about the gap between true care and owning hold, about the need to keep personal choice and money freedom, even in tied pairs. The waves are crashing into belief groups in which similar power plays exist, initiating conversations regarding whether or not deep words are utilized to support actions that are hurtful to women and families. Young women coming of age in rigid belief places are observing this story unfold and inquiring about alternative things regarding the bonds they wish to form, the gives they're prepared to offer, and the warnings they must identify. Maybe most key, this story is contributing to a broader culture shift in how we speak about the worth and agency of women in relationships. The story that women have reason to be grateful for male attention, regardless of how that attention is expressed. That large gifts explain why bad treatment is okay. That deep or spiritual duties justify sacrificing personal well-being. All these negative ideas are being tried and dismantled through public discourse and group backlash. The Big Sister group is expanding, and it is not merely about supporting women exiting shared marriages. It's about creating a culture in which women trust their instincts regarding control, in which they prioritize their own goodness over maintaining relationships that bring them down, in which they support one another through the difficult steps of trend spotting and change. And as for Robyn, whatever choice she receives, she's already proved herself a good example of how control tactics eventually fail, how grand gestures can't purchase genuine concern, and how the plans devised to manage women ultimately reveal their own conflicting messages. The $25,000 painting that was meant to lock her spot has instead become a sign of how quick promises can fall, and top choices can change when ties are built on power and hold rather than true care and respect. So, what do you think will happen next in this growing story? Do you believe Robyn will finally share the same wake-up that caused the other wives to prioritize their own good? Or will she continue to hold on to a system that already demonstrated to her how it treats women who are no longer beneficial? And what part in this entire story has you most cheering on the courage these women have exhibited in recognizing their worth? Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and keep those notifications on because believe me, when I tell you this story is hardly over. There's a new video on the horizon, and something tells me the next round of shared wife news will be even better than the last.